I was scrolling through Facebook on a quiet Tuesday morning, coffee in hand, when I saw it. My daughter Emily in a white lace gown, beaming at the camera. Her new in-laws stood beside her, arms wrapped around her shoulders like they'd raised her themselves. My own daughter, married. And I found out through a photograph posted by someone I'd never even met. There I was, the woman who'd given her everything, reduced to a stranger seeing her wedding day the same way 1,000 other strangers did. My hands started shaking. The coffee spilled. The coffee pooled across my kitchen table, but I couldn't move. I just kept staring at that image on my phone screen. Emily looked radiant. Her dress must have cost thousands. The venue behind her looked like one of those elegant country clubs with manicured lawns and fountains. I zoomed in, studying every detail like I was searching for evidence that this wasn't real. But it was real, painfully real. I scrolled through more photos. There were at least 20 posted by someone named Catherine Whitmore. The albums showed a ceremony with white chairs arranged in perfect rows. Floral arrangements. That probably cost more than my monthly rent. A reception hall with chandeliers and a band. I counted the tables in the background. This wasn't a small affair. There had to be 150 people there, maybe more. My chest tightened as I recognized faces. There was Lauren, Emily's best friend since 3rd grade. I'd driven those girls to dance class every Tuesday for 6 years. There was Marcus from her college sorority days. I'd met him at her graduation. There was her old roommate, Jenny, the one who'd stayed at my house for Thanksgiving 3 years running. They all knew. Every single one of them knew about this wedding, and not one person thought to tell me. I looked at the date stamp on the photos. Saturday. 3 days ago. While I'd been at work on Saturday morning, cleaning teeth and making small talk with patients, my daughter had walked down an aisle without me. While I'd been grocery shopping that afternoon, she'd been cutting a cake with some man I'd never met. While I'd been home alone that evening watching television, she'd been dancing at her reception, celebrating a marriage I knew nothing about. The venue tag on the photos said Riverside Country Club in Greenwich, Connecticut. I looked it up. 3 hours from my home in Kingston, New York. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. You don't book a place like that overnight. The flowers, the photographer, the catering, the dress, all of it takes months of planning. Months, during which my daughter deliberately kept me in the dark. I tried calling her. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. I sent a text. Emily, I saw the photos. Please call me. The message showed delivered. Then I saw the 2 blue check marks appear. Read, she'd read it. But no reply came. I waited 30 minutes, my phone clutched in my hand. Nothing. I called Lauren. She answered on the 4th ring, and I could hear the guilt in her voice immediately. Meredith, hi, how are you? Did you go to Emily's wedding? Silence. Then a sigh. Yes, I did. And you didn't think to tell me? Lauren, I've known you since you were 8 years old. I wanted to. I really did. But Emily made everyone promise not to say anything. She was really specific about it. Lauren's voice dropped to almost a whisper. She said you were toxic and controlling. She said she needed to break free and start fresh. The words hit me like a physical blow. Toxic, controlling. Did she say anything else? I managed to ask. She told people you'd try to ruin her wedding if you knew about it. That you couldn't handle her growing up and moving on. Lauren paused. Meredith, I don't know what happened between you two, but she seemed really adamant about this. I thanked Lauren and hung up. My hand was trembling so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I walked through my small apartment, looking at the framed photographs on every surface. Emily as a baby. Emily on her first day of kindergarten. Emily at her high school graduation. Emily receiving her college diploma. Every milestone, I'd been there. Every single one. After her father left when she was 7, it had been just the 2 of us. Harold had been emotionally cruel, tearing me down day after day, until I finally found the courage to divorce him. He'd left us with nothing but debt and broken promises. I'd worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. I'd been a dental hygienist during the day and worked evening shifts at a pharmacy on weekends. I'd missed sleep, missed meals, missed any kind of social life so Emily could have dance lessons and nice school clothes, and eventually, a private college education. When she graduated 3 years ago, I'd helped her buy a small starter house 40 minutes from me in Poughkeepsie. I'd used every cent of my retirement savings for the down payment, $35,000. The house was in her name because she needed to build credit, but I'd been paying the mortgage because she claimed her marketing job didn't pay enough yet. $27,000 over 18 months in mortgage payments. I'd never asked for a thank you. She was my daughter. That's what mothers do. And this was how she repaid me. By cutting me out of the most important day of her life, by telling people I was toxic. I grabbed my keys. I needed to see her face to face. I needed answers. The drive to her house took 43 minutes. Her car was in the driveway. I knocked on the door. No answer. I knocked again, harder. Emily, I know you're home. Please, just talk to me. Nothing. I was about to knock a third time when her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, came out of the house next door. She's not going to answer, the older woman said. She moved out 2 weeks ago. What? A moving truck came, took most of her furniture. I asked if everything was all right, and she said she was moving to a better place. Mrs. Chen shook her head. Seemed sudden to me. I stood there, stunned. Then I remembered I still had the emergency key she'd given me when she first bought the place. In case you ever need to check on things, she'd said. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The house was empty. Completely empty, except for trash scattered across the floor and a broken chair in what used to be the living room. The walls had nail holes where pictures had hung. The kitchen cabinets were open and bare. And there, on the kitchen counter, was a stack of unopened mail, all addressed to me, at my address. I picked up the envelopes with shaking hands. Credit card bills, collection notices. All in Emily's name but sent to my home address. I tore one open. A Visa card with a balance of $8,300, past due. Another envelope, a MasterCard, $12,400, maxed out. Another. The numbers swam before my eyes. At the bottom of the stack was a letter from a collection agency demanding payment of $12,000 for an account in Emily's name. The letter threatened legal action. I sank onto the dirty floor, surrounded by these envelopes, and realized my daughter had been lying to me about far more than just a wedding. I gathered every piece of mail and drove home in a daze. Back in my apartment, I spread the documents across my kitchen table and began to investigate. 4 credit cards, 3 of them maxed out. Total debt, $28,000. I called the credit card companies one by one, my dread growing with each conversation. Yes, Mrs. Foster, the representative from Capital One said, you're listed as a co-signer on this account. That's impossible. I never signed anything. According to our records, the application was submitted online with both signatures verified. I requested copies of the applications. When they arrived by email 2 days later, I stared at the signatures. One was Emily's handwriting, the other was supposed to be mine. It looked close enough to fool someone who didn't know better. But I could see the differences. The way the M curved, the slant of the letters. Emily had forged my signature. On 2 of the 4 cards, I was listed as a co-signer, which meant I was legally responsible for half of that debt. $14,000 that I never spent and never authorized. I called my realtor friend, Patricia Brennan. We'd known each other for 15 years. She'd helped me find my current apartment when I downsized after Emily went to college. Patricia, I need to sell Emily's house. Fast. Is everything all right? I explained the situation. Patricia was silent for a long moment. Then she said, let me come look at it tomorrow. We'll get it listed by the weekend. The next day, I met Patricia at the house. She walked through the empty rooms, taking notes and photographs. The market's good right now. Small houses in Poughkeepsie are moving quickly. I think we can get this sold within a month, maybe sooner. While Patricia measured rooms, I searched the garage for anything Emily might have left behind. Behind a stack of old paint cans, I found a cardboard box. Inside were bank statements, printed text messages, and photographs. The bank statements showed deposits I didn't understand. large sums appearing regularly over the past year. $3,000 here, $5,000 there. Where was this money coming from? Emily had told me she was barely scraping by. The text messages were between Emily and someone saved in her phone as just Jay. I read through them, my stomach churning. The plan is working, one message said. She has no idea. When do we make the move? Jay responded. Soon. I need to get rid of her first. Then we're free. Get rid of her. Me. They were talking about me. There were photographs too. Emily with a man who wasn't the groom from the wedding pictures. These photos were dated from 6 months ago. Emily and this man at a restaurant, at a park. Outside what looked like a hotel, they looked intimate, comfortable. At the bottom of the box, I found a receipt from a jewelry store. $8,200 for a men's Rolex watch, purchased by Emily 3 months ago. I took the box home and tried calling Emily again. This time, she answered. What do you want? Her voice was cold. Emily, we need to talk about the credit cards, about the house, about all of this. There's nothing to talk about. You forged my signature. You stole money from me. You lied about everything. I don't know what you're talking about. Emily, please. I'm your mother. Just tell me what's going on. We can fix this. You were never supposed to be part of my new life, Mother. The way she said mother dripped with contempt. I've moved on. You should too. I'm selling the house to recover what I've paid. You can't. That's my house. I'll sue you. She hung up. I texted. The house is in your name, but I paid for it. I have every right to recoup my investment. Her response came immediately. Try it and see what happens. The next afternoon, a man appeared at my door. He was tall, probably in his early 30s, wearing an expensive suit. A luxury sedan was parked on the street behind him. Mrs. Foster? I'm Bradley Whitmore, Emily's husband. So this was him, the man my daughter had married without telling me. May I come in? I stepped aside, and he entered, his eyes scanning my modest apartment with barely concealed judgment. I understand there's been some confusion, he said, his tone polite but firm. Emily is going through a difficult time emotionally. She's fragile right now, and your attempts to contact her are making things worse. I'm her mother. Yes, and she's asked for space. I'm here to request that you respect that. Back off, Mrs. Foster. Let her heal. Heal from what? I haven't done anything to her. Bradley's smile didn't reach his eyes. That's not how Emily sees it. My family owns Whitmore Auto Group. We have dealerships across New England. We're prominent in our community. Emily is part of that now. She needs to focus on her future, not be dragged down by her past. The implication was clear. I was the past, something to be discarded. Your family must be very proud, I said, unable to keep the edge from my voice. We take care of our own, and Emily is ours now. He pulled out a business card and placed it on my coffee table. If you need to communicate anything, go through our family attorney. His information is on the back. Don't contact Emily directly again. He left, and I stood there feeling like I'd just been threatened by someone wearing a pleasant mask. 2 hours later, I checked my bank account online to pay a bill. My savings account balance showed $312. I stared at the number, certain there was a mistake. I'd had $42,600 in that account. Money I'd been rebuilding after helping Emily. Money for emergencies and eventually, retirement. I clicked on the transaction history. There it was. A transfer of $42,300, authorized 5 days ago, the day before Emily's wedding. The transfer was made using my online banking credentials. My password. Only one person knew that password. 2 years ago, Emily had helped me set up online banking when I was struggling with the technology. I'd written down the password and she'd seen it. She'd even joked that I should make it something easier to remember. She'd remembered it, all right. And she'd used it to drain my account. I called my bank immediately. The representative listened to my explanation and then said the words I'd been dreading. Since the transfer was authorized with your correct password, we'll need to investigate. This could take 30 to 60 days. In the meantime, I'd recommend filing a police report. 30 to 60 days. I had $300 to my name and bills due next week. I'd been wiped out, completely and deliberately wiped out by my own daughter. The police station in Kingston was busy when I arrived the next morning. I waited an hour before Sergeant Williams, a heavy-set man in his 50s, called me into an interview room. I explained everything: the forged credit card applications, the drained bank account, the wedding I wasn't invited to. He took notes, his expression growing more skeptical as I talked. "Mrs. Foster, I understand this is difficult. Family situations always are." He set down his pen. "But the credit cards are going to be hard to prove as fraud. You'll need a handwriting expert, and even then, she could claim you gave permission verbally. As for the bank account, since she had the password, the bank is going to say you authorized the access. I didn't give her permission for any of this." "I believe you. But legally, this might be considered a civil matter between family members. You could sue her in civil court." "What about the theft? $42,000. "Like I said, she had your password. That's going to complicate things." He softened slightly. "File a report. I'll send it to the detective division, but I want to be honest with you. These cases are tough, especially when it's family." I left the police station feeling defeated. I needed a lawyer. I found one through an online search. Donald Greenberg had an office above a deli in downtown Kingston. His receptionist was friendly, and Donald himself seemed competent when I met with him that afternoon. He was in his 60s, with gray hair and glasses that kept sliding down his nose. "This is a complicated case," he said after listening to my story. "We can absolutely pursue this, but it's going to take time and money. My retainer is $10,000. $10,000 I didn't have. Can we work something out? A payment plan?" He considered this. "I'll need at least $5,000 up front. The rest we can structure over time." I left his office and drove directly to my bank. I took out a personal loan against my car. The interest rate was absurd, but I had no choice. I gave Donald his $5,000 and prayed I was making the right decision. Meanwhile, Patricia called with good news. "We have a buyer, cash offer, closing in 30 days. Finally, something going right." That relief lasted exactly 18 hours. The next morning, I woke to find I'd been tagged in a Facebook post. Emily had written a long message about having a narcissistic mother who controlled every aspect of her life. She claimed I'd forced her to buy the house and was now stealing it from her. The post had 200 likes and counting. Comments poured in. "I'm so sorry you went through this. Cut toxic people out, even if they're family. You deserve happiness." Nobody asked for my side. Nobody questioned her version. My phone rang. It was my friend Carol, someone I'd known for 20 years. "Meredith, I just saw Emily's post. I'm really disappointed in you, that poor girl." "Carol, that's not what happened. She's lying." She seemed very genuine. "And there are all those people supporting her. Are you sure you're not seeing this situation clearly?" By the end of the day, 3 other friends had distanced themselves, people I'd thought would stand by me no matter what. The restraining order arrived on a Tuesday. A sheriff's deputy handed me the papers at my front door. Emily had filed a petition claiming I'd been harassing her and threatening her. She'd submitted screenshots of text messages, including one where I'd written, "You'll regret this." I'd meant emotionally. She'd meant to frame it as a physical threat. A judge had granted a temporary restraining order. I was to stay 500 feet away from Emily, from Bradley, and from the house I'd paid for. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks out. "This is a setup," I told Donald when I showed him the papers. "She's manipulating the system." "I know. But we have to take it seriously. Violating a restraining order is a criminal offense. Stay away from her, Mrs. Foster. Completely away." The collection agencies started calling daily, sometimes multiple times a day. One agency threatened to sue me as the co-signer on Emily's debt. My credit score, which I'd spent years building, dropped 130 points in 1 month. Donald needed more money, another $5,000 to continue representation. I'd already maxed out my car loan. I turned to credit cards, taking cash advances at 22% interest. I was drowning. At work, Dr. Shapiro called me into his office. I'd worked at his dental practice for 23 years. He'd always been kind. "Meredith, we need to talk. Someone called the office with a complaint about you." "What kind of complaint?" "They claimed you were unprofessional. That you discussed personal matters with patients. that you seemed distracted and made them uncomfortable. He leaned back in his chair. I've also received several calls from people asking questions about your character. This is Emily's doing. Or her husband's family. I don't know who's behind it, but I have to take patient concerns seriously. I'm putting you on probation. Your hours are being reduced by 30%. If we receive any more complaints, I'll have to reconsider your employment. 30% fewer hours meant 30% less pay. I was already barely making ends meet. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by bills I couldn't pay. Mortgage on the apartment, car payment, credit card minimums, utilities, food, Donald's legal fees. The numbers didn't add up no matter how I arranged them. My car broke down the next week, the transmission, $4,200 to fix. Money I absolutely did not have. I started taking the bus to work. 2 buses actually, with a transfer in between. What used to be a 20-minute drive was now an hour and a half each way. Then the lawsuits started arriving. 3 credit card companies filed civil suits against me for Emily's debt. My wages were going to be garnished. 25% of every paycheck automatically deducted to pay debts I'd never incurred. The stress was destroying me. I developed high blood pressure. My doctor prescribed medication I couldn't afford. I started having panic attacks. One happened at work while I was cleaning a patient's teeth. My hands shook so badly I had to excuse myself. Dr. Shapiro sent me home. I lost 12 pounds in 3 weeks because I was choosing between food and other necessities. Food was losing. Then Emily struck again. Through her lawyer, she filed a new legal action claiming I owed her back rent. According to her filing, I'd lived in her house for 2 years and owed her $30,000 in unpaid rent. This was completely fabricated. I'd never lived in that house for more than an afternoon helping her move in, but she'd produced receipts. Fake receipts showing I'd paid her cash for rent and claiming she'd provided me with housing. She'd forged my signature on a rental agreement I'd never seen. Donald was overwhelmed. They're flooding us with legal actions. This is a tactic to drain your resources. Bradley's family has expensive attorneys who can file motion after motion, knowing each one costs you money to respond to. The hearing for the restraining order went badly. Emily showed up with Bradley and his lawyer, a sharply dressed man named Charles Brennan. Emily testified that I'd been emotionally abusive her whole life, that I'd manipulated her into buying the house, that I'd threatened her when she tried to set boundaries. She cried on the stand. Real tears. My lawyer tried to present our evidence, but Charles objected to nearly everything. The judge, an older woman who seemed to sympathize with Emily's tears, sustained most of the objections. The restraining order was extended for 6 months. Donald pulled me aside afterward. They're good. Charles Brennan is a partner at a major firm in Hartford. He's used to winning. And Bradley's family clearly has deep pockets. What do I do? We keep fighting. But Meredith, I need you to understand. This could bankrupt you. They know that. They're counting on it. The house sale, my one hope for financial relief, hit a roadblock. Bradley's family got a court injunction halting the sale. They argued that ownership was in dispute and the sale couldn't proceed until that was resolved. The judge scheduled a hearing. At that hearing, Emily testified that I'd given her the house as a gift with no strings attached. She produced a handwritten letter, supposedly from me, stating exactly that. The letter was a forgery, but it looked convincing. The handwriting was similar enough to mine. Patricia, my realtor, testified that I'd told her I paid for the house and intended to sell it. But Charles Brennan painted me as a woman trying to profit from her daughter's property out of spite. The judge ruled the sale couldn't proceed until ownership was clarified. That could take 6 to 12 months of litigation. I walked out of that courthouse knowing I was trapped. Emily and Bradley's family had systematically cut off every avenue of escape. I was being buried under legal fees, debt, and accusations. They had resources I couldn't match, and they were winning. A week after the hearing, I arrived at work to find Dr. Shapiro waiting for me in his office. Meredith, sit down. I knew before he said it. I'm sorry, I have to let you go. A patient threatened to leave a negative online review unless I removed you from the practice. I can't afford that kind of publicity. He handed me an envelope. 2 weeks severance. I wish I could do more. 23 years. Gone. I cleaned out my locker in a daze. My coworkers avoided looking at me. Word had spread about my situation, and people didn't know what to say. I lost my health insurance immediately. The high blood pressure medication cost $140 out of pocket. I stopped taking it. I applied for unemployment benefits. The website said it would take 4 to 6 weeks to process. I had rent due in 12 days and $800 in my checking account. My sister Janet called from Florida. I hadn't spoken to her in months. I saw Emily's Facebook posts, Janet said. Meredith, I think you need to take a hard look at yourself. Maybe you were too controlling and just can't see it. You're taking her side? You don't even know what happened. I know what I'm reading, and there are a lot of people who seem to believe her. Where there's smoke, there's usually fire. I hung up on her. My own sister. I was utterly alone. The legal attacks continued. Bradley's lawyers filed a motion to have me declared a vexatious litigant. This was a legal designation for people who abuse the court system with frivolous lawsuits. If granted, I wouldn't be able to file any new legal claims without special court approval. The hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks out. Donald was honest with me. If they succeed with this motion, it severely limits your ability to fight back legally. It's a devastating tactic. With no job and nothing but time, I started investigating on my own. I drove to Emily's new neighborhood in Connecticut. I couldn't get within 500 feet due to the restraining order, but I could see the house from the street. It was a mansion, not just a nice house, a mansion, brick facade, circular driveway, at least 5,000 square feet. This was the neighborhood where people with serious money lived. I looked up property records online. The house was valued at $2.8 million, purchased 18 months ago, right around the time Emily claimed she couldn't afford to pay her own mortgage. I created a fake Facebook profile to look at Emily's page since she'd blocked my real account. The photos showed a life of luxury. Emily at a spa. Emily shopping in New York City with designer bags. Emily at charity galas wearing gowns that cost more than my car. A trip to Paris. A weekend in the Hamptons. A sailing excursion off the coast of Maine. All posted in the past year. All while I'd been paying her mortgage, and she'd been crying poverty. I dug deeper. I found old posts Emily had forgotten to delete from 8 months ago. Posts showing her with a different man. Tall, dark-haired, attractive. They looked close. Intimate. The comments on the photos called him Jeremy. I searched for Jeremy in Emily's friends list. Nothing. He'd been deleted. But I found him through mutual friends. Jeremy Talbot. I looked at his profile. He worked at Whitmore Auto Group until 7 months ago. After that, his employment status went blank. I sent him a message from my fake account. Hi, I'm writing an article about the Whitmore family business. Would you be willing to talk? To my surprise, he responded within an hour. I don't talk to reporters. I tried a different approach. I created another message from my real identity. Jeremy, my name is Meredith Foster. I'm Emily Whitmore's mother. I think you might be able to help me understand what's happening. Would you be willing to meet? This time, his response came even faster. How soon can you meet? We arranged to meet at a diner in Hartford, halfway between us. Jeremy was angry. I could see it the moment he sat down across from me in the booth. He was 31, he told me. He'd worked in sales at the Whitmore dealership for 3 years. Emily and I were engaged, he said without preamble. Did you know that? I shook my head. We were together for 2 years. I loved her. I thought we were building a life together. He stirred his coffee viciously. Then she met Bradley at a company event. She dumped me 2 weeks later. Wouldn't even give me a real explanation. Just said things had changed. What happened then? I got fired a month later. Bradley's father claimed my sales numbers were down. They were, but only because Bradley kept reassigning my best clients to other salespeople. They wanted me gone. Why are you telling me this? Jeremy's eyes hardened. Because Emily ruined my life and I want her to pay for it, and because I know what she did to you. You do? She told me. When we were together, she talked about you all the time. How you were holding her back, how you came from nothing and she wanted better. She said once she married into a wealthy family, she'd cut you off completely and reinvent herself. He pulled out his phone. I saved some of our text messages before she blocked me. I thought I might need them someday. He showed me his screen, messages between him and Emily. I can't wait to be free of her, one message read. My mother is an anchor around my neck. Once I marry Bradley, I'll make sure she can't ruin this for me. Charles says we can bury her in legal fees if she tries anything. I felt like I'd been punched. Charles? I asked. Charles Brennan, the Whitmore family lawyer. He and Emily got really close during the wedding planning. I think they were the ones who came up with the plan to destroy your credibility. What plan? Jeremy leaned forward. Emily wanted you erased, not just out of her life, but destroyed so thoroughly that you couldn't ever expose her lies. She told Bradley's family you were dead. When they found out you weren't, they had to make you look unstable and dangerous, so her lies seemed justified. My blood ran cold. I don't have proof of the conspiracy, Jeremy admitted, but I heard things. Emily was careless sometimes when we were together. She talked about needing to deal with problems. You were one of those problems. He scrolled through more messages and showed me one that made my stomach turn. Once I'm married to Bradley, I'll make sure she can't ruin this for me. Charles says we can bury her in legal fees until she gives up or dies broke. Emily had written that. My daughter had written those words about me. Why are you helping me? I asked. Because Emily doesn't get to destroy people without consequences. She destroyed my career. She destroyed you. Someone needs to stop her. He paused. And honestly, I want to watch her world burn. He agreed to provide his text messages to my lawyer, but when I called Donald that evening, I got devastating news. Meredith, I can't continue representing you. You're 3 months behind on payments. I'm sorry, but I have to withdraw from the case. I begged. I pleaded. But Donald was firm. Without payment, he couldn't continue. I was facing legal battles on multiple fronts, with no lawyer and no money. That night, alone in my apartment with the lights off to save electricity, I had a moment of complete despair. I thought about giving up, about just walking away from everything and starting over somewhere else with nothing. But then I thought about Emily's message. Bury her in legal fees until she gives up or dies broke. She wanted me to give up. That's what this whole campaign was designed to do. Break me completely. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. The next morning, I went to legal aid. The office was crowded with people in situations as desperate as mine. I waited 4 hours before meeting with an attorney. Her name was Rachel Torres. She was young, maybe 30, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. I told her everything. I showed her the documents, the text messages from Jeremy, the bank records, the forged signatures. Rachel was quiet for a long time after I finished. Then she said, "This is elder financial abuse. And it's criminal. Not just civil. Criminal. Can you help me?" "Yes. But you need to understand. This is going to get worse before it gets better. Emily and the Whitmore family have resources. They're going to fight hard. I don't have anything left to lose." Rachel smiled grimly. "Then let's show them what happens when they push someone who has nothing left to lose." Rachel worked fast. She filed complaints with the district attorney's office, the Connecticut Bar Association, and even reached out to the FBI about potential wire fraud. She hired a forensic accountant through a pro bono program to trace the money. But Bradley's family moved faster. 3 days after I met with Rachel, a private investigator started following me. I noticed him at the grocery store, at the library where I was using free internet, on the bus, a middle-aged man with a camera and a notebook. He approached one of my former coworkers at the dental practice and asked questions about my mental stability. Had I ever seemed unhinged? Had I made threats? Had I seemed capable of violence? My apartment was broken into. I came home from a job interview to find my front door lock scratched and my belongings disturbed. Nothing valuable was taken because I had nothing valuable left. But my personal documents had been rifled through. Papers were out of order. Drawers were open. I searched carefully and found it. A small camera hidden behind a book on my shelf. Someone had planted it to watch me. I called the police. Sergeant Williams came out and took a report, but without proof of who planted it, there was nothing he could do. "Change your locks," he advised. and maybe stay with a friend for a few days. I didn't have friends willing to take me in anymore. Emily's social media campaign had been too effective. My eviction notice came on a Friday. I was 3 months behind on rent. The landlord was sympathetic but firm. I had 30 days to vacate. I had nowhere to go. Rachel's forensic accountant, a methodical man named Martin, discovered crucial evidence. Emily's bank account had received a deposit of $55,200 exactly 1 week after my savings account was drained. "This proves she stole your money," Rachel said. "The timing is too perfect to be coincidence." Martin also analyzed the credit card applications. He hired a handwriting expert who confirmed the signatures were forgeries. The expert could testify in court. "We're building a strong case," Rachel told me. "But it's going to take time." Time I didn't have. I was living on canned soup and rice. I'd lost 23 pounds. My clothes hung off me. I looked sick. The stress was killing me. I had chest pains. Headaches that lasted for days. I couldn't sleep more than 2 or 3 hours a night. My sister Janet called again. "Meredith, I talked to Emily. She's really hurt by all this. She says you're making things up to ruin her marriage." "She's lying." She sounded very sincere. "And Bradley's family has a good reputation. Why would they lie?" "Because they're protecting their own interests. Janet, she stole $42,000 from me. Do you have proof?" "Yes. Bank records showing the transfer and a deposit in her account a week later." "That's not proof. That's circumstantial. Maybe she got that money from somewhere else." I hung up without saying goodbye. Emily filed her lawsuit seeking $30,000 in back rent. The hearing was scheduled. Without a lawyer, I'd have to represent myself. I spent days in the public library researching how to defend myself in court. I printed out documents and organized them in folders. I prepared my testimony, but I knew I was outmatched. Charles Brennan was a professional. I was a desperate woman with a high school education and some dental hygienist training. The hearing went as badly as I'd feared. Charles presented Emily's forged rental agreement and fake receipts. He showed Emily's bank records with mysterious cash deposits that she claimed were rent payments from me. I tried to explain that I'd never lived in her house, that the documents were forged. "Do you have proof they're forged, Mrs. Foster?" the judge asked. "I didn't sign them. That's not my signature." "Did you hire a handwriting expert to analyze them?" "I can't afford one." The judge looked pained. "Without expert testimony, I can't simply accept your word that these are forged. I'm going to take this under advisement, ruling in 30 days. I walked out knowing I'd probably lose. That night, I got a Facebook message from someone I didn't know. The message said simply, "You should know who your daughter really is. Check this link." The link led to a private blog. The blog belonged to Jeremy, and he'd written a detailed account of his relationship with Emily, how she'd cheated on him, how she'd lied to Bradley's family about her background, how she'd manipulated people throughout her life. But more importantly, he'd posted screenshots of text messages. More than what he'd shown me. Messages where Emily discussed her plans with Charles Brennan. Where she explicitly talked about destroying me so I couldn't interfere. One message read, "Charles says we need to isolate her completely, ruin her finances, ruin her reputation, make her radioactive so nobody believes anything she says. Then even if she tries to expose my lies to Bradley's family, they won't believe her." Another, "It's almost funny how easy this is. She trusts me completely. She gave me her banking password. She co-signed for me. She paid for everything. And now I'm using all of it against her." The cruelty was breathtaking. Jeremy had posted everything out of spite. His blog wasn't popular. Maybe 20 people had seen it, but it existed. It was proof. I called Rachel immediately and sent her the link. "This is what we needed," Rachel said. "This shows intent. This shows conspiracy. This changes everything." Rachel reached out to the district attorney's office with the new evidence. The DA, a woman named Linda Chen, agreed to meet with us. Linda reviewed everything: the bank transfers, the forged signatures, the text messages from Jeremy's blog, the pattern of harassment and legal intimidation. "We can file charges," Linda said. "Wire fraud, identity theft, elder financial abuse, forgery, This is a solid case. What about the Whitmore family? I asked. They have connections. Linda's expression hardened. I don't care who they're connected to. Nobody is above the law in my jurisdiction. Rachel also filed a complaint with the Connecticut Bar Association against Charles Brennan. A lawyer conspiring with a client to commit fraud and harass another person was a serious ethical violation. Things started moving quickly. The FBI agent reviewing the wire fraud case called Rachel. He wanted to interview me. He wanted to interview Jeremy. He wanted bank records. A journalist from the Hartford Chronicle reached out. He'd been following white-collar crime in Connecticut, and the Whitmore family had been on his radar for years. He wanted to write a story. Rachel advised me to cooperate with the journalist. Public attention can be a powerful tool. The article published on a Wednesday morning. The headline read, "Prominent Connecticut Family Accused of Elder Financial Abuse." The article detailed everything: Emily's theft, the forged documents, the harassment campaign, the Whitmore family's attempts to intimidate and silence me, Jeremy's testimony, the ongoing criminal investigation. It went viral locally. Within hours, it had been shared hundreds of times. News outlets picked it up. By evening, it was the lead story on 3 local TV news broadcasts. My phone started ringing. Other people came forward with stories about the Whitmore family using their money and lawyers to intimidate people. A former employee who'd been wrongfully terminated, a business partner who'd been cheated, a customer who'd been defrauded. The Whitmore family's carefully maintained reputation started to crack. Bradley's uncle, the state senator, issued a statement distancing himself from the situation. "This is a private family matter, and I have no involvement or knowledge of the allegations." The Connecticut Bar Association accelerated their investigation into Charles Brennan. Bradley's family business started facing protests. People picketed outside their dealerships with signs reading "Justice for Meredith" and "Stop Elder Abuse." And through it all, Emily was silent. Then one Thursday morning, 2 FBI agents and a local police detective showed up at the mansion in Connecticut. They had a warrant for Emily's arrest. She was charged with wire fraud, identity theft, forgery, and elder financial abuse, all felonies. Bradley's family hired her the best criminal defense attorney in Connecticut. But the evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, forged signatures, text messages, witness testimony from Jeremy. Everything Rachel and Martin had compiled. Emily's lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal immediately. Emily was facing up to 20 years in prison if convicted on all charges. The district attorney's office was willing to discuss a deal, but only if Emily pleaded guilty and agreed to full restitution. While this was happening, Bradley filed for annulment. His family had finally realized the full scope of Emily's lies. She'd told them her parents were both dead. She'd told them she'd graduated from Yale instead of a state school. She'd told them she came from old money that had been lost in bad investments. All lies. Bradley's family's lawyers released a statement throwing Emily completely under the bus. They claimed they'd been deceived too. That they'd tried to help Emily's mother without knowing the full truth. That they were horrified to learn what Emily had done. It was all self-preservation. They were trying to protect their reputation. Charles Brennan was disbarred pending investigation. The evidence of his involvement in the conspiracy was too strong. And suddenly, Emily had no one. Her friends abandoned her. Her marriage was annulled. Her in-laws turned on her. The criminal charges hung over her head. She lost her job at the marketing firm where she'd worked because the scandal made her unhireable. Rachel called me with updates daily. The plea deal is taking shape. She'll plead guilty to multiple counts. 5 years probation. Full restitution of $118,000. That's everything you lost, plus interest and damages. What about jail time? The DA is willing to waive jail time if she pleads guilty and accepts responsibility publicly. She'll have to make a statement admitting what she did. The plea hearing was scheduled for a month out. And then, on a cold October evening, Emily showed up at my apartment. I opened the door, and there she was, my daughter, looking nothing like the radiant bride from those Facebook photos. She looked hollow, exhausted, broken. "Mom," she said, her voice cracking. "Please, can we talk?" I should have closed the door. Rachel had told me not to speak to Emily without her present, but something in my daughter's eyes made me hesitate. You have 5 minutes, I said. Emily came inside. She looked around my sparse apartment with obvious shock. The furniture I'd sold, the empty walls, the general air of poverty. I didn't know it was this bad, she whispered. You did this. I know. She sat down on my threadbare couch without being invited. Bradley left me. His family wants nothing to do with me. All my friends are gone. I lost my job. I'm facing criminal charges. I'm aware. I'm going to have to plead guilty. My lawyer says I have no choice. The evidence is too strong. I waited. I wouldn't make this easy for her. I came to ask for your forgiveness. Tears streamed down her face. Real tears this time, not the performative crying from the courtroom. I know I don't deserve it. I know what I did was unforgivable. But you're my mother. You're all I have left. I'm not all you have left. You have consequences. Those are what you have now. Please, I'm begging you. Tell the DA you don't want me prosecuted. Tell them you forgive me. I'll pay you back every cent, I swear. With what money? You have nothing. I'll get a job, multiple jobs. I'll work the rest of my life to pay you back. I looked at my daughter, 28 years old, sitting in my apartment begging for mercy after she'd systematically tried to destroy my entire life. Do you even understand what you did to me? I asked quietly. I was stupid. I was greedy. I wanted to be someone different. Someone better than where I came from. You wanted to erase me. Yes, she sobbed openly now. I was ashamed of being poor growing up, of Dad leaving, of you working 2 jobs and us never having money. When I met Bradley and saw his family's wealth, I wanted that life so badly, and I thought the only way to have it was to pretend my past didn't exist. So you told them I was dead. Yes. And when they found out I wasn't, you decided to destroy me so thoroughly that nothing I said would matter. Emily's face crumpled. Charles said it was the only way. That your credibility had to be eliminated completely. I went along with it because I was terrified of losing Bradley. I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I felt nothing. No anger anymore. No sadness. Just a vast emptiness where my love for her used to be. Your 5 minutes are up, I said. Mom, please. Get out of my apartment, Emily. I have nowhere to go. Bradley's family froze the bank accounts. I'm staying in a motel. I can't afford rent anywhere. Please, can I just stay here for a few nights? No. Mom, you wanted me out of your life. You got your wish. Now live with it. She stood, her whole body shaking. Fine. If you won't help me, I'll figure it out myself. I always have. The audacity of that statement. After everything I'd done for her, after everything she'd stolen from me. You know what the saddest part is? I said as she walked to the door. If you'd just been honest with Bradley's family from the start, they probably would have accepted you anyway. Wealthy people marry people from working-class backgrounds all the time. But you were so ashamed of me, so ashamed of where you came from, that you created this elaborate lie. And then you destroyed me to maintain that lie. I know. The person you needed to escape wasn't me, Emily. It was yourself. Your own insecurity and self-hatred. And you can't ever escape that. She left without another word. I called Rachel immediately and told her about the visit. Good instincts not letting her stay, Rachel said. That would have been a disaster. She's probably recording conversations now, trying to get you to say something she can use in her defense. The plea hearing arrived. Emily stood before the judge in a simple dress, no longer wearing the designer clothes from her wedding photos. She pleaded guilty to 4 counts: wire fraud, identity theft, forgery, and elder financial abuse. The judge accepted the plea. 5 years probation. $118,000 in restitution to be paid over 5 years. Community service, mandatory counseling. Do you understand that if you violate the terms of your probation, you will face the full prison sentence? The judge asked. Yes, Your Honor, Emily said quietly. And do you have anything you wish to say? Emily turned and looked at me where I sat in the gallery. I want to apologize to my mother, Meredith Foster. What I did was cruel and unforgivable. I stole from her. I lied about her. I tried to destroy her life to cover up my own insecurities and lies. She gave me everything, and I repaid her with betrayal. I'm sorry. Her voice broke on the last word. But I felt no satisfaction. No vindication. Just exhaustion. The Bradley family paid me a settlement separately to avoid being named in civil litigation. $75,000. Their lawyers made me sign a non-disclosure agreement, but the money was real and it was mine. With the settlement and the start of Emily's restitution payments, I could finally breathe. I paid off every debt, the credit cards, the car loan, the personal loans, all of it. For the first time in a year, I had money in my savings account. I found a new job at a different dental practice. Dr. Morrison was kind and didn't ask too many questions about the gap in my employment. The pay was better than my old job had been. I moved to a nicer apartment. Nothing fancy, but clean and safe and mine. My friends who'd abandoned me started calling again. Some apologized. Most just pretended nothing had happened. I accepted some of these renewed friendships cautiously. Others I let go. Janet flew up from Florida and apologized in person. We cried together. She admitted she'd been wrong to doubt me. I think I just wanted to believe Emily, Janet said. Because if what she said was true, it meant I didn't have to feel guilty for not helping you more when you were struggling. At least she was honest. I joined a support group for parents estranged from their adult children. I wasn't the only mother with a similar story. The meetings helped. Talking to people who understood helped. Months passed. I rebuilt my life piece by piece. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Emily was working 3 jobs to make her restitution payments. A waitress position, retail, and doing medical billing from home. She lived in a tiny studio apartment. She had no car. She took the bus everywhere. She was living the life I'd lived when she was young. The life she'd been so ashamed of. I felt no satisfaction in this either. Just sadness for what might have been. One evening, I was volunteering at a community center, teaching financial literacy classes to young women. It was something I'd started doing as a way to give back, to help others avoid the mistakes Emily had made and the predators like Bradley's family who exploited people. A young woman approached me after class. She was maybe 22, with anxious eyes. "Miss Foster? I just wanted to say thank you. My boyfriend has been pressuring me to put his name on my bank account, and I was going to do it because I didn't want him to think I didn't trust him. But after your class, I realized that's not about trust. It's about protecting myself." I smiled. "You're very smart to recognize that. Your story really resonated with me. The one you told about being taken advantage of by family. I'm sorry that happened to you." "Me too, but I'm okay now. And if my experience can help even one person avoid a similar situation, then something good came from it." She hugged me and left. I sat there in the empty classroom for a long time, thinking about the journey that had brought me here. From that terrible morning seeing Emily's wedding photos online to this moment where I was helping others. I'd lost my daughter, but I'd found myself. 8 months after the plea hearing, I received a letter in the mail. The envelope was plain, no return address. Inside was a single handwritten page. "Mom, I understand now. Thank you for not giving up your truth. I hope one day I can be half as strong as you. I'm sorry. I love you, Emily." I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer in my bedroom. I didn't respond. Maybe someday, but not today. The truth was, I'd realized something important over these months of rebuilding. I'd spent Emily's entire childhood teaching her that love meant sacrifice. That a mother's job was to give everything and expect nothing in return. That her needs always came before my own. I'd taught her that I had no boundaries, no limits, no breaking point. And she'd learned that lesson too well. I'd enabled her to become someone who believed she was entitled to everything I had, who believed my resources were hers to use, who never learned the value of earning things herself or appreciating what others did for her. In trying to give her a better life than I'd had, I'd failed to teach her empathy, gratitude, and basic human decency. That was my failure as a parent. Not the only one responsible for who she became, but certainly a contributing factor. But her choices, her lies, her cruelty, those were hers alone. I couldn't take responsibility for that. She was an adult. She'd made decisions. Now she was living with the consequences. And I had to live with mine. The consequence of my choices was that I'd lost my daughter. Perhaps permanently. Perhaps forever. But I'd gained something too. My self-respect, my boundaries, my understanding that I deserved to be treated with basic human decency, even by people I loved. My phone rang. It was Thomas, the man I'd been seeing for the past few months. We'd met at a community center event. He was a widower, 64 years old, a retired postal worker with kind eyes and a gentle sense of humor. "Are we still on for dinner tonight?" he asked. "Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it." "Me too. I'll pick you up at 6. I hung up smiling. Thomas was good to me, respectful, considerate. He made me laugh. We were taking things slowly, but it felt right. Like maybe I deserved happiness too. My apartment phone rang next. Rachel Torres. "Meredith, I wanted to give you an update. Emily made her quarterly restitution payment on time. She's current on all her obligations." "That's good. There's something else." Charles Brennan was officially disbarred. The Bar Association found him guilty of multiple ethical violations. He'll never practice law again. Good. And the Bradley family settled the last of the civil cases against them. Their reputation took a major hit. Several of their dealerships are struggling. Their uncle lost his re-election bid for state senate. The scandal stuck to them. I should have felt vindicated, triumphant. But mostly I just felt tired. Thank you for everything, Rachel. I couldn't have done this without you. You did the hard part. You didn't give up. You fought back when everything and everyone was against you. After we hung up, I walked to my window and looked out at the street below. It was early spring, trees were budding, the air smelled fresh and clean. I thought about Emily as a little girl, 7 years old, crying because her father had left. I'd held her and promised her that everything would be okay, that I'd take care of her, that she'd never be alone. I'd kept that promise for 21 years. I'd sacrificed everything to give her opportunities I'd never had. And somewhere along the way, she'd learned to take and take and take without ever learning to give back. That little girl was gone. The woman she'd become was someone I didn't recognize. Someone who'd been willing to destroy her own mother for money and social status. I didn't know if Emily would ever truly change, if she'd ever develop the empathy and character she so clearly lacked. That was her journey now, not mine. My journey was different. It was about rebuilding not just my finances and my life, but my understanding of what I deserved. What boundaries meant. What healthy love looked like. Thomas picked me up at 6 o'clock sharp. We went to a small Italian restaurant in Kingston. Nothing fancy, but the food was good and the atmosphere was warm. "You seem happy," Thomas observed over dinner. "I am. For the first time in a long time, I actually am. You deserve to be happy." Such simple words, but they meant everything. We talked about his grandchildren, about my volunteer work, about a trip we were planning to Maine in the summer. Normal, healthy conversation between two people who respected each other. This was what love was supposed to look like. Partnership, respect, consideration. Not one person endlessly sacrificing while the other endlessly took. After dinner, Thomas drove me home and walked me to my door. "Same time next week?" he asked. "I'd like that." He kissed my cheek gently and left. I went inside my apartment and made myself a cup of tea. I sat on my couch, the one I'd bought with my settlement money, in my safe apartment that I could afford, in the life I'd rebuilt from absolutely nothing. I thought about everything I'd lost, my savings, my job, my friends, at least temporarily, my daughter, my health, for a while, my sense of security and trust, and I thought about what I'd gained, my strength, my boundaries, my understanding of my own worth, my knowledge that I could survive anything, my ability to stand up for myself even when everyone was against me. The trade wasn't equal. I would have preferred to never go through any of it. But I'd survived. More than that, I'd won. Not by destroying Emily, though she'd certainly destroyed herself, but by refusing to be destroyed, by refusing to disappear, by refusing to accept the lies and the abuse and the systematic attack on my existence. I'd won by insisting on my truth, even when it cost me everything. There was power in that, a power I'd never known I had. My phone buzzed with a text from one of the women in my financial literacy class. "Miss Foster, I wanted to thank you again for your advice. I stood up to my boyfriend, and he admitted he just wanted access to my money. I broke up with him. It hurts, but I know it was right. You gave me the courage to choose myself." I texted back, "I'm so proud of you. You deserve someone who respects you and your boundaries. Never settle for less." She responded with a heart emoji. I finished my tea and got ready for bed. Tomorrow I had work, then my volunteer class, then dinner with Janet, who was visiting again. My life was full. Not with drama or crisis, but with purpose and connection, and slowly rebuilding trust. I thought about Emily one more time before I fell asleep. Wondered if she was okay, if she was safe, if she was learning anything from her consequences. Then I let it go. She wasn't my responsibility anymore. She'd made that choice when she decided I was disposable, when she'd systematically tried to erase me from existence. I'd given her life. I'd raised her. I'd sacrificed for her. I'd loved her with everything I had. But I wouldn't let her destroy me. Sometimes the greatest act of love is letting go. Not everyone deserves a place in your life, even if they share your blood. Protect your peace, defend your truth, and never let anyone, not even family, destroy the life you've built with your own hands. I'd learned that lesson the hardest way possible. But I'd learned it, and I would never forget it again. I closed my eyes and slept peacefully for the first time in almost 2 years. The next morning, I woke to sunshine streaming through my window. Another day. Another chance to build the life I deserved. I got up, made coffee, and smiled at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I'd survived. I'd won. I was free. And that was everything. So I want to ask you something. Have you ever had someone in your life, maybe even family, who made you question your own worth? Someone who took and took until you had nothing left? How did you find the strength to set boundaries? What did you learn about yourself? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Your experiences matter, and sharing them might help someone else who's going through something similar right now. If this story touched your heart or made you think about your own relationships, please hit that like button. And if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, I'd be honored if you would. Every subscription helps me reach more people who might need to hear these stories. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone, that it's okay to protect yourself, that setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish, it makes you strong. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope you know that whatever you're facing, you have more strength than you realize. You deserve respect. You deserve kindness. You deserve a life that doesn't require you to sacrifice your own well-being for people who don't appreciate it. Take care of yourself. Choose yourself. Protect your peace. Until next time.